We're dedicating the shir to our very own Rabbi Dov Ber's parents. They should be healthy and well, a full healing immediately. They're in intensive care right now. Yosef ben Menucha and Leah Bas Yafa should be complete healing immediately. B'toshar Chali Yisrael, Refuas HaNefesh, Refuas HaGuf, Hashta Ba'agola, Bizman Kori V'imru, Amen. Bezrat Hashem. We're going to learn today about healing plagues, about how to make destruction go away in a lasting and meaningful way. So, of course, the address for that is the Torah. So the Parashas, right at the end of the Parashas, speaks about the Mizbeach HaKtoros, the incense offering. Ve'asisa mizbeach niktar k'toros. You should make yourself a altar to offer incense. Atze shitim tasa oisai, and you should make it out of acacia wood on the inside, and then coat it in gold, etc. What are these k'toros all about? What's the whole power of the k'toros? That was a mizbeach that was on the inside, and that you could only bring k'toros on that altar, except one time a year you could bring it on the fire pan into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Of course, that was Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol. And what's so powerful about these k'toros, that it says about the k'toros that it stops destruction, stops plague from coming to the world. There's something about the k'toros that's a very, very powerful technology. So I want to read a famous Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos says like this: when Moshe Rabbeinu was going up to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. So many people know the Gemara, famous idea that Moshe Rabbeinu was going up. So says the Gemara in Shabbos, Peichas Med Beis, Amar Reb Yoshua ben Levi, B'shah sha'ala Moshe Rabbeinu l'morim, when Moshe Rabbeinu was going up the mountain, and he was going up into heaven, he encountered some guests. He encountered the angels. Amru Malochei Ashores Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the angels cried out to Hashem and said, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, Mali Yeludisha Beinenu. What's Moshe Rabbeinu doing with us? Amar Lahem. So Hashem said back to the angels, L'kabel HaTorah. He came to receive the Torah. That's why he's here. So they said back to Hashem, Amru lefonov chamuda genuza shenigzu lacha teishem yois v'shim ve'arba deiros kodem shnivra olam. This very, very secret, special gift called the Torah that was hidden for 974 generations before the world was created. This very, very powerful thing called the Torah, which you, Hashem, and the Torah are one. Mamish, this thing called Torah, the most intimate relationship with Hashem. You want to give this at the mevakesh little labos of a dam? You want to give this to this human being of flesh and blood? He's made like an animal. He has to use the bathroom. This unbelievably sublime, powerful Torah of yours, you're going to give it to a man that's born of a woman? Such a man that he should be mentioned, a man should be remembered to have such a thing. What kind of chashivas does he have? He's made out of flanken, or a bunch of fleishiks just put together. Lamaisa. We can't forget that. Remember, this is the angels. The angels have no physicality. Hashem Adonai ma'adir shimcha b'chol haaretz. This was the response of the angels. You should give your glory, your honor to us up here in heaven. You want to give it to this man. Doesn't work. It's not fitting. So Amallah HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe. So Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Hechzir lahem tshuva, answer them. Moshe, answer. Amallah Fon v'Ribono Shel Olam. Misyarei ani. Shemi yisrafuni behevel shebepiyim. I'm afraid that they're going to burn me with the hevel, with the fire coming out of their mouth. You see where all the movies get it all from. Again, this was nothing in physicality. This is all conceptual. Amar loy echois bekisa kevoidi v'chazer lahem tshuva. Moshe, don't be afraid. Hold on to my throne of glory and answer them. Nothing physical. This is all allegorical. Amar lefonov Ribbon Shalom Torah she'ata noisen li maksiv ba. The Torah that you want to give to me, what does it say in the Torah? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzeicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. It says, I am the Lord your God, I took you out of Egypt. So Amalahem, so Moshe said to the angels, L'Mitzrayim yiradetem? You angels, did you ever go down to Egypt? Were you slaves in Egypt? Were you slaves to Paro? Leparo hishtabatem? Were you ever enslaved to the evil Pharaoh? It's not relevant to you, angels. Shuv maksiv ba. And Moshe Rabbeinu says again, Lo yeh l'cha Elohim acherim al ponai. Do not have any other gods. So Moshe says to the angels, Bein amim atem shruyim. Were you ever amongst the evil nations of the world, she'oivdim avodah zarah, that they are worshipping idols? Were you ever exposed to that type of filth? That you need this warning? Shuv maksiba, what else does it say? Zochas Yom Shabbos b'kadsha. Remember the Shabbos. Make it holy. Klum atem oisim malach. I'm up there. Do you guys have to, get jobs, angels, and wait for your pension and pay taxes up there? That you need the shvus, you need Shabbos kodesh, and it keeps going on like this. Business. Do you guys have to do business up there? Don't steal. Don't covet. You have those things up there. And what was the conclusion? Miyad haidalai. The angels all recognized that Moshe was right. Now, by the way, a simple question on the Gemara is, what, the angels didn't know what it said in the Torah? What were exactly they asking for? So the deeper answer is, the Torah exists on many, many levels. The angels wanted to learn the Torah on the higher levels. Before it comes down into the physical letters. But the Torah is all the way up there. And the real secret was, it was most appropriate to come down here. That Hashem's unity could be revealed down here with us physical beings. So when the angels recognized that Moshe was right, Shenemar Hashem Adonenu Adir Shimcha, but it doesn't say Tana Hoidcha L'Shamayim. The angels withdrew their opinion and they said, it belongs to Moshe. Now look what the Gemara says. Miyad kol echad. Usually the Gemara stops there. That's like the Shavuos part. So we're picking up at this point. Says the Gemara, Miyad kol echad ve'echad nasim le'oyev. Immediately all the angels became very, very favorable of Moshe. They knew that he was right, and they also felt a type of remorse for being mavaza Moshe, for calling him names. So what happened? Alisa lamarim shavisa shevi lokachta matanus ba'adam. The angels gave Moshe gifts, presents. When you do something to somebody and they don't like it, the way that you're supposed to appease them is you give them a present. You say sorry, of course. We know that's a famous thing, that you give somebody a present. Just by the way, if you ever upset somebody, or nobody should ever upset their wife, but it's a good thing to get chocolates. It's a very good thing. Just remember that. It's always a good thing to have chocolates. It's a very good idea. So gifts help to appease. So these were secret gifts that were given to Moshe. Now look what the Gemara says. Va'af malach hamovis mosar loy davar. Even the angel of death gave Moshe a gift. Now that's very interesting. We know in the halachas of matanas mishloch manas ish l'reyehu matanas l'avyonim, that the bigger a person is, the more chashav a person is, mishloch manas, the bigger the gift should be. And also the more chashav the person you're giving to, from the Gemara Megillah there, of Zion, you should give a bigger gift to that person. So the more important, you don't have the Rosh Hashiva give somebody, some bamba, Mishlach Manas. You give something nice. And if you're giving to the Rebbe, you don't give the Rebbe, some Twizzlers. You give the Rebbe some abuav, something, nice wines and, I don't know, a brisket, something. So the Malach HaMavis is pretty big, and Moshe is big. So what was the greatest gift that the Malach HaMavis would give to Moshe? The Malach HaMavis taught Moshe Rabbeinu the secret of incense offering, of the Ketores. And that with that secret, the Torah says that when Moses and Korach had their machloikes, and a plague went out, and many were dying, Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron had the secret of the Ketores, v'yiten es ha-Ketores, and they offered Ketores, v'yechaper al ha'am, and the nation was atoned, v'omer, v'yamoid ben ha-mesim ben achayim, v'te'otzer ha-magefa. And they were able to bring the dead and separate between dead and the living, and bring back life. Ilav da Omar lei, and would he not have given this? Mi have yoda. How would the Moshe have ever known such a thing? It does not say it in the Torah. The way that Moshe and Aaron knew this was that the Malach HaMavis gave the secret of pushing away death itself. Think about it. The angel of death gave Moshe the secret of how to overcome death and plagues. How to overcome the plague, and that's called the secret of the Ketores. Which means the Ketores is not a kleine zach. This is not a small thing. Which means also for us, if we want to end the plague for real, we have to do physical things. But kol shekain, we need to do that which is at the inner point of ending plague, which is called Ketores. So I want to read to you a famous piece of the Zohar HaKadosh. It says like this. It's a long Zohar. This is the most famous Zohar on the Ketores. Look what it says. It's in the Zohar Parashas Vayakel Dav Reishud Ches Amud Beis. A famous piece. Yeah, Reach Nichayach. Yishel Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Kegav Nedak Ketores. The Zohar here is speaking about the tzitz, which is what the Kohen Gadol wore. The tzitz means to see. The tzitz created thoughts of tshuva, and anybody who saw the high priest wearing the tzitz, that golden plate that he wore over the forehead that said Kodesh LaHashem. Kol man de'arach b'hau tanona. Anybody who smelled the fragrance of the Ketores. Kad solik hau amuda mehawi maila oshum. When the fragrance and when the smoke went up from the burning Ketores, it went up like a makel. It went up like a staff, straight up to the ceiling of the Kodesh of Beis HaMikdash, and then the Ketores hit the ceiling and billowed down the walls, filling the entire Beis HaMikdash with the ocean of the Ketores. You hear how much shefa is flowing right now when you start learning about Ketores? In this. And what would happen? A person's heart would become purified from anything that was crooked or evil. The smell of the Ketores would start refining out any bad motivations. Va'avar mine zuhama de Yetzahara, and any of the poison and the venom of the Yetzahara that was in a person's heart would get refined out from smelling the Ketores. V'loi havalei ela libo chad lekabel avud b'shmaya, A person would only at that point have one heart. B'kol levavcha, v'ahavta es Hashem Elokeh b'kol levavcha. His entire heart would be one for you, Hashem. Only for you. The Ketairis pushed away any evil inclination. Begin the Ketairis teviru the Yetzer Hara iyu, vade b'kol sitron. Because the Ketairis would break the power of the Yetzer Hara from every single angle. Our evil inclination tries to do all sorts of things to get us to listen to it. But the Ketairis had the power to push that away. The Kama the tzitz have a koim al nisa, in the same way that the tzitz, that the headband of the kohen gadol, that when people saw it, they would return in tshuva. Could you imagine that? Seeing the kohen gadol, and when people would see the tzitz, the golden plate over his head, that we would have these very powerful thoughts of tshuva. Oiv Ketairis, so too the Ketairis. As soon as a person would smell it, he would return to Hashem, b'leivav shalom. You know, the Ketairis was so powerful that they could smell it all around Yerushalayim to Yericho. Reach. Ketairis. We have to remember Beis HaMikdash is coming, my friends. And what reality is going to be like. Get it into our minds, into our hearts. The world, when Mashiach comes, is going to be a very different world. You have to already be getting into that zone. Tzipisili Yeshua. It's one of the first questions they ask you when you get up to heaven. Did you yearn for the redemption? Were you yearning for it? We need it. We need it, mamish. We need the Ketairis again. There's nothing in the world, listen to these words from the Zohar. There's nothing in the world that breaks the power of evil more than the Ketairis. That's very strong stuff.
How can I get some?
How can you get some? It's called read the Siddur morning and afternoon. It's right in there. We'll mention a couple things Lamais in a minute. Talchazi, come and see. Maksiv, look what it says. Kachas amachta v'sein aleya eish me'ala mizbeach v'sim Ketairis. Night timer. Why do you have to bring the Ketairis? Ki yotza haketzev milifnei Hashem achel hanogef. This is quoting what we just mentioned from the Gemara. That when God's anger was raging because there was machloikis, plague always comes because there's fighting. There's fighting. And then plague happens. Or people are not recognizing God. Nothing would have been able to break the evil decree that was on the people, and people were dying. There's nothing more chaviv to Hashem ki Ketairis. Look at these lashonuses. That's very powerful. The Ketairis pushes away sorcery and evil things from a person's house. If a person feels like there's bad vibes in the house, people are fighting, it's like there's something not right in the house, you might be advised to say the portion of Ketairis with kavana inside the house. Or there's witchcraft or sorcery or weird stuff happening, or you go traveling somewhere and you feel like, I might need to clear the air here. Shofar is also a good idea. The neighbors are, what's going on? They're staying in some hotels. What is that? When you say the Ketairis,
I thought you meant your driver at first.
even though I will tell you one nicer. It was many years ago. A very personal thing. That I was flying from Eretz Yisrael back to Canada, and we had a stopover somewhere. Let's just say it wasn't Israel, Canada, or the States. It was somewhere else. And I was in the airport there, and I knew that I wouldn't make it to Canada by the time that it was daytime, and it was Elul, and I wanted to make sure to hear the shofar. So I didn't want to blow it on the plane. That would be a horrible idea. That would be the worst idea ever, and that's why I did not do it. But when I got to the airport, so, sometimes in airports there's areas where you can go and basically nobody's there. So I went looking for a place that basically nobody was there because I wanted to hear a tashra. I needed it. I felt like I need, even though it's only a minhag, but I felt that it would be okay. So I went very, when nobody was there, and I just, got the basic sound out. And there's a couple of like, I heard like a little, everything okay? Yeah, great. Elo, shkoyach. And then there was one person that heard it a little bit, and there was some Yidden that when we were boarding our transfer flight, so right at the gate, there was all these Yidden, like we didn't hear the shofar, we heard like, so even the flight people are like, okay, you could blow it. So then we mamish blew a tashra, the tashav and tarat, right at the gate going in. So okay, you do a little thing, you do it like b'tznius, and then afterwards, it was more bezgalia. So yes, it's also a good idea. It clears the air. The Torah clears the air. The reich of the Ketores va'avid b'nei nasha, the reich of the Ketores that a person would do is mevatel the kshafim, mevatel the witchcraft and all the evil. And that's a kal v'chaymer. Look at this, kal v'chaymer. B'hau avoid mevatel. What's the kal v'chaymer? If we have the power with our hands to cancel out idol worship, that a person could go to a place where there's statues, like Abraham, Avram Avinu did, and he destroyed all the statues. And you could cancel it out that way with physicality. So if you can cancel idol worship with physicality, then certainly spirituality, which is much more powerful, you can cancel out with the spiritual powers of the Ketores. Kol shekain Ketores, which was and is the antidote of evil. And look what it says. There's so much in the Zohar here. Milo da gezera kaima kamei kutshabrichu. Hashem has a bris. The kol man destakel v'kari b'kol yom avoda Ketores. If you say Ketores every single day and you think about it, yishtaziv mikol milan bishin. You're going to be saved from any evil speech. Charshin, people trying to do witchcraft. Mikol pegoim bishin. Any bad things and pegoim. Umehir bisha, and evil thoughts, medina bisha, moisana, anything that it's evil, including plague. That's the last one. V'lo zak kol hau yoman. Person will be saved that day. The lo yachal sitra acher l'shaltale, and the evil inclination will not be able to have any power. The itztrich, 3 words in the Zohar, the echaven bei. You have to have kavanah. By the way, there's all sorts of kavanas. You guys, Ichimar's mam kavanas in Ketores, and the Commander Rebbe made all sorts of Ketores with kavanas. To have kavanas, the simple kavana is this was the antidote that the Malach HaMavis gave the secrets to Moshe Rabbeinu to remove plague. That there should be no more disease, no more plague in the world. This is the antidote. And like we just saw here from the Kal V'chomer, you have to do physical things, but certainly to do spiritual things. Amar Reb Shimon, Ibnei Nasha Havi Yoda Kama Iloi Ioivada the Ketores Kama Kuchabrichu. Says Reb Shimon, if we would know how powerful this is, have a natle kol mil v'mil minei, we would take every single word in the Ketores, v'have salki le'atar al rashayu kekisser the dahava. We'd put golden crowns on every one of the letters. You'd go buy J.M. Bullion, a bunch of gold, and put it mamish, crown the words of the Ketores. Boiles takle ba'ivod the Ketores. Think about the Ketores. The iyechaven be'be kol yom. If you think about Ketores every single day, Steve, every day you think about them, you'll have a portion in this world and the world to come. I think what it means in this world, it says the Ketores make a person rich. That's why when a Kohen would make the Ketores in Beis HaMikdash, he could only do it one time in his life. Because he become an Osher Muflug. He become very, very rich from it. An Osher. That's, you're going to have a portion in this world. There's no Ra. It's only Ashiris, like when Mashiach comes, and the Ra is gone from the world, everyone's going to be rich. Whoever is part of that perfected community in the times of Mashiach is going to be very wealthy. Death is going to be gone. There's going to be no more din, no more judgments on a person. Misitran bishin, all the bad things in Gehenna, it's all gone. Bahahu ketores. Just these last couple words. He says an amazing thing. The Zohar asks a question. It says, why is it called Mizbeach HaKetores? Remember, there's 2 Mizbachot. There is the altar that's outside that we bring the Korbanos on, we bring the Oilus and the Shlomim, etc. We bring the outside altar. And then the inside altar, we only bring Ketores. So why is it called Mizbeach? Because Mizbeach comes in Lashon Zevach, Zvachim, that you bring animals onto it. You don't bring any animals onto the Ketores. You're not being Zoiveach on there, you bring Ketores. So, you know what it means? Begin the house Sitra Bisha Kafis, because when you bring the Ketores, you're tying up the Yetzer Hara and slaughtering the Yetzer Hara itself. That's the Mizbeach HaKetores. You take the Yetzer Hara and you're nekad, you bind him onto that altar, al yidei the Ketores. The Ketores is the biggest secret we have to end all the Ra. It's a very, very chashuv thing. Many of the Poskim, the Chidah, the Kavachayim, many of the Sfardim already have this. They get a Ketores on Klaf. There's many reasons for that, beyond the scope of this shir now. To have a Ketores on the parchment, to read the Ketores, to think about the Ketores, what it does. This was the gift from the angel of death to Moshe, of how to beat death, is the Ketores. To think about the incense, to learn the different incense. We should be Zoicha Mamish to the great Ketores of Mashiach Tzidkeinu, the Ketores of the Beis HaMikdash, when all the Ra of the world is fully removed once and for all, and all the plague of the world is gone forever, and the Nega Ra is gone forever. B'siyat d'shmaya, we should be Zoicha. The Yimalei Sa'aretz, the land should be filled with De'as Hashem, Kamayim Aliyam Nechasim, like water covers the sea, with Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'mehir v'yameinu. Amen. Amen. Have a good Shabbos. Kol Tuv.